3 on November 25th, 2025. The first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Is there anyone in the room who would like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? All right, thank you.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Gail. All right. So we will close the select board and open as the local liquor control board to consider the renewal application for Cappadocia Cafe. I'll entertain a motion.
Chair,
Yes, Ida.
I move that we approve the renewal application for Cappadocia Cafe LLC at 5 South Main Street, White River Junction, Vermont 05001 for a first class, third class, and outside consumption license.
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, a second by Ashley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And for the record, we have Mike missing, and at the moment, Miranda is also missing. So I will close the local liquor control board, and we have no local cannabis control board, so I will reopen as the select board. And the next order of business is the order of agenda. Are there any changes to the order of agenda? So we will continue the order of agenda as it is written. So first off is public comment. Please introduce yourself, tell us your residence, and remember that you have 3 minutes to speak. Hi, Kathy.
Hiya, Kathy Melisick, Wilder, Vermont. A few meetings ago, I stood up and said how pleased I was that I felt like our leadership in town, staff and commissions and all was in a really good place for the first time in a really long time, and it felt stable. And when I got a text a couple of weeks ago from a neighbor who said Gail Ostrout, our beloved finance director, is retiring, my exact text back to her in all caps was no. And I just wanted to say, I just wanted to recognize her for how amazing she's been. Like on a personal level, when I come in, she's always friendly. She's so efficient. She's served as interim town manager. She has just gone above and beyond the call. And I know she's sitting back there, and I'll hand her a tissue if she needs it when I go back. But I will miss her service very much. And we won't see her like again, I don't think. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathy. We ditto your remarks. Okay, any other public comments? Peter?
Pretty sure Heidi didn't want to go ahead of me with public comment.
That's up to you.
You know, I'll make this quick, just wanted to clarify one thing from last week. Yeah, Pete Zandron, White River Junction, no missing me. I mean, last week, that was not an attempt at dialogue, basically with some troublemakers in the area. I mean, some of the news has been positive, some have been negative, but have anyone, Heidi, that's mine over there, just don't want, just let me get this out of the way. It's a pain in the ass making sure this cord doesn't get dinged. But don't want to have any act, but as I said, but that's part of the issue. Like I've just had my email up there, like that one file that I had to remind John about last week. That was from the U.S. attorney that I sent from over a year ago when I got residents here. I'm not one of the U.S. attorney's favorite residents, and me helping uncover this massive fraud with the food stamps when I got residents here. I mean, it was the same people that were involved in that fraud were also some of the same people involved with the fraud during the recent shutdown that was exposed. And me and a few others in Vermont, we got small rewards just for helping keep things calm and keeping it honest, while others got their benefits cut. And I mean, this was, as we all say, I mean, if we're all Vermonters here, we know, back up everything you say. And I mean, just being someone who was born in Vermont, backing up what they said that day. And if all's well, I should be able to stick around and help follow through with a few other trouble issues that have been going on here. So mean, especially with the holidays coming up, it's like I've had to remind, as I kept reminding, like how many did, I mean, part of the, was the, look at all the diversity around here. I mean, not everyone celebrates Christmas or Thanksgiving or Hanukkah, but we all got holidays coming up, and those are the times, I mean, just when you think it can't happen, that's when it can happen. And communication helps make sure that it doesn't happen.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks, Peter.
Okay, any other public comments in the room? Is there anyone online?
No hands online.
Okay, so we will close public comment then. Are there any select board comments or announcements? I'll start with Eric.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Given that we're one day away from the eve of Thanksgiving, I guess I just wanted to offer some gratitudes tonight. Firstly to the town staff that I think does an outstanding job. And I think we should be grateful for the staff that we have. To the people of Hartford for coming out and making the democratic process work, because it doesn't work without the public. Perhaps lastly, I could go on for a long time, but I'll keep this pretty short and make it 3. Lastly, to my fellow board members for making this work, like literally work. I think we don't have to look too far into the past to find boards that didn't work as well as ours does. And so I appreciate that, appreciate working with all you. So on that note, those are my gratitudes for right now, and happy Thanksgiving to you all.
Thank you, Eric. Heidi?
I mean, I'll just echo those sentiments. Really nice to hear your reflections, Eric, and I really share the same ones. I think often when people ask me about what it's like to be on the select board, one of the first things I say is we have a really amazing staff in our town, and it's been amazing to just get to know their people and those people and their work and what they contribute, and feel, gratitude for the people that serve our community. And I will definitely extend that to the residents, and especially those folks who engage and come to meetings and offer their input and their criticisms and their support. Really appreciate everyone and the fellow board members. So thanks for setting the tone, Eric. It's nice to have the opportunity to say so.
Jim?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is that, we obviously, all of us in our life in the news and certainly at times at these meetings deal with the noise, but there's a lot of people who do the work here quietly in this town. They do the dedicated work, police, fire, DPW, all staff. And so I appreciate that as well. And every time I kind of get to know the people in the town that do that work, I'm humbled and honored to be part of it. So thank you. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Tim. Ashley?
Sure, I'll add to this. I love this idea of expressing gratitude to the town and staff and residents, and I'll piggyback onto that for the just coming off of a great Resilient Hartford committee meeting that I just got out of, and getting to do some work with the Hartford Energy Commission this week. Just such a thanks to all of our committees and board members and Board of Abatement, like all of the folks who come out and do all of this volunteer stuff that makes our town run. Is just really uplifting and awesome to see. Even when sometimes it feels like a really bleak outlook on the world, when you focus more locally, there's always things that you can find where people are just doing good work out just because they care. So I'm grateful for that too, and grateful to be in Hartford.
Thank you, Ashley. And obviously, I'm not going to go against anything anyone has said here. But I just personally I was hoping Mike would be able to come tonight, but I just want to personally say thanks to Gail, particularly as one of the few people who were here when she was an interim, and how those were tough times, and Paula was there also. So I want to thank you for that. Okay, so let us move on then to, since there are no appointments, to the town manager report and his significant activity reports as well.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. There was a community forum hosted by the Quechee Club on Wednesday, November 18th or 19th. And I'd just like to thank the Quechee Club and to our friends at JAM who covered the event. Thanks to also to all the in-person and remote attendees from all across town. There will be a special select board budget meeting on December 2nd. There'll be another regular select board meeting on Tuesday, December 9th, at which further budget discussions and deliberations may take place. The town meeting preparations are proceeding, and just today, we had a meeting with the superintendent of schools and some of her staff, as well as the town clerk, just to iron out some of the details about the upcoming cycle, other events. The only real change is the possible change that we're going to have for the town and school meeting day. That will be held in the high school auditorium as opposed to the gymnasium. It appears that the Hartford Hurricanes are no longer a whipping post in town, but rather they are a dominant force in their college, in their athletics program. So that means that they will need the access to the gym that they haven't needed in previous less successful periods of their performance. So we will be publicizing these new town meeting cycle dates, and we can plan around them. The Bugby Building Committee has now met 7 times, and we believe that maybe one more meeting will be necessary to approve a series of recommendations for the select board to consider in terms of investments in the most pressing deferred maintenance categories. So stay tuned for a presentation in the days ahead from the Bugby Committee and Bugby leadership. The town manager has identified a person with many years of municipal government experience, including in municipal finance, to serve as the town's interim finance director from early December through as late as March of next year. Hopefully this will provide the town sufficient time to recruit a more permanent successor. A proposed contract will be discussed tonight in executive session. I'd like to point out that outside of the door here in this building, there is a box for donated coats. The Haven, together with some high school kids, have put that out for us, and it'll be there through December 5. So if you have any old coats that could be used by someone else, please make sure to drop them in the box by the 5th of December. And finally, I'll just point out that the town offices will be closed in observance of Thanksgiving on Thursday and Friday, November 27th and 28th. And with that, I'll just highlight a few SIGACs if I could. The town clerk points out that Hartford positions to be elected on March 3rd. Candidate petitions and consent forms are due to the clerk's office no later than 5 o'clock on January 26th. The Environmental Sustainability Coordinator notes that on Monday, November 10th, the Climate Action Steering Team held a special meeting to discuss tracking the town's carbon footprint. The Environmental Sustainability Coordinator is currently talking with Dartmouth and UNH about getting technical assistance with carbon accounting. Lori in Planning and Development notes that their Vermont 802 Homes for All Phase 3 program had 2 very productive and informative meetings with the state, and that starting in January, there will be several meetings focused on testing out the 10 different housing models on actual sites. The entire initiative will conclude in September of 2026. She also notes that work is continuing on the town's hazard mitigation plan. Over at DPW, the Quechee Pollution Abatement Plant, there's been a couple of positive steps forward. They've completed installation of the second plant process pump, and the system is working as designed. And they're working with a technician to determine issues with the main control and control panel to develop a replacement plan for outdated components. In the fire service, Chief Cooney congratulates firefighters Nick Alden and Matthew McCabe for successfully completing the advanced EMT program. The Fire Engine Committee met with Sutven Engineering to begin the design phase of the new rescue engine. And in terms of emergency response, he points out that on Bliss Road, curbs responded to a complex extrication involving a patient trapped in mechanical equipment. The successful rescue was the result of outstanding coordination among multiple agencies, including the Lebanon Fire Department, Hartford Police, and Dartmouth Hitchcock, and their DART team. Special thanks to all involved for their professionalism, collaboration, and commitment to patient care under challenging conditions. I think that's the source of the public comment we had last week from the family member who was very appreciative. Hartford Police notes that they had recently held their November Public Safety Coalition meeting. The meeting included a preview of the police department data dashboard analyst Wunderlich has been working on. The dashboard will allow review of police data dating back to 2014. And in subsequent SIGACs, it's clear that it's been a busy stretch for HPD as outlined. They've had some high profile arrests. I believe that's coming down the home stretch, everybody. Yes, thank you.
So then we are moving on to the acceptance of the FY25 audit report.
Yes, can I just say a couple of words? I kind of was hemming and hawing about whether this matter should be tabled for future consideration. However, through the help of Eric Krause's good comments to tweak the draft report and my effort to try to capture Eric's comments into some language that could be incorporated into the audit. And finally, the auditor's agreement that that language could be added to the audit. The auditors have made it clear that it would certainly be appropriate if the board wished to simply accept the audit on the understanding that those additional bits of language would be added to it. So it's before you for your consideration as to whether you'd like to accept it or not tonight.
Anybody have any comments about that? Gail?
Do you want me to go there or there?
Whatever's most comfortable for you.
So Gail Ostrowt, Finance Director. I have concerns about accepting Eric's language, specifically when it talks about the landfill closure. When the questions came in, my response was we needed to talk to the department heads. The Department of Public Works, his director is out. So I would caution all of you from making changes to the audit without talking with him specifically or his staff. And then also at the end of the day, the audit's a report card for what I do as a finance director, as well as Joe Major, the treasurer, John Haverstock as the town manager. And any changes that are made to that need to be fully vetted, not only with all of you, but with all of us, the three of us, to make sure that it actually represents what we want it to represent. So
Okay.
I'm asking for you to at least consider that before you make that decision. That we have until December 31st for the audit to be accepted, submitted to the clearinghouse, and then received there as well. We've been kind of in a holding pattern for a little while because of the government being shut down. But since we're able to move forward now, let's not rush to failure. That's my only comment.
Okay.
Gail, quick question for you. So do we typically publish that in the town report?
We do.
So that deadline you expressed would meet that as well, that we could have it in the town report?
Absolutely. One of the goals when I was hired on by Leo Poehler back in 2016 was that we had the audit completed and finished to you before Thanksgiving. The audit is ready to go. It's clean, it's transparent, just working on a little bit of the language. But other than that, it's ready to go. But So yes, it definitely will be ready for the town report. We need to have it done.
I just wanted to truly thank you for the fact that we've, and this is for the public more than me or you. 10 years, we've had clean audits in this town. That's remarkable. I've worked for a lot of different organizations and I'm very impressed with the work that you do. So thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just,
How
can I just
would you-
follow up by saying, yeah, I don't disagree with Gail. If she'd like Brian to look at the language, is perfectly fine with me. I thought I was capturing the essence of it, but Brian's input wouldn't hurt.
Yep, absolutely. So I would like to take a motion if someone would like to table this until.
Maybe next
whenever
meeting
we get-
perhaps.
You were getting.
So moved. Can I say that?
Do you need a more formal motion or?
No, I think,
Okay.
okay,
So moved.
So we're tabling.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Do we need a second? Do we have a
Oh,
second?
I thought you were seconding me.
Oh,
Okay,
good. I don't know.
all right. Well, we could take yours as
Okay.
the motion and then I'll ask for a second.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, second by Tim. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, so that's 5-0. Thank you, Gail. Really appreciate that.
Thanks, Gail.
Okay, so let's move on to the FY 27 budget presentation for Finance Department.
I don't have a PowerPoint presentation, so I don't know if you want to pull it up. I mean, it's very minimal slides for mine, for the finance department. But please feel free to do so if you would like to. Start with editing. Okay.
Is that the beginning of it? No.
It's fine. The finance one is Department 171. I'm not sure where it was inserted in the agenda packet, so, but
I
we
think we
can
had
do-
auditing
It's after
services
the
first.
audit.
Okay.
Well, why don't we start with my 171?
So again, I'm Gail Ostraud. I'm the finance director. And we're gonna look at the finance department, which is mainly all of the expenses are staff and related benefits, but we'll go through it anyways. So in your budget book, it's on pages 11 and 12. Operational expenses, you'll see a slight increase. For 2027, we're looking at 40,200. Prior to that, for last year, we're looking at 35,334. What does operational expenses include? It includes travel and meetings, membership, books and periodicals. We have contracted services for our software. We also have it for our other post-employment benefits, which is required that we have to do. It's also part of the audit. With that being said, probably after I leave, whoever is going to be filling my shoes and the town manager will be coming to you with the actuarial, which is an analysis of other post-employment benefits, which you as a board will need to accept. So if you have questions about what that is, catch me before December 5th. Otherwise, you guys can do some research on it yourselves. Treasurer's expense, and then overall, just, equipment operation, postage, materials and supplies. Next slide, please. So that's, I don't know where the red
Red is my
writing,
question.
I don't know where that came from, but
Oh, that was a note to myself.
oh, okay. So as I said at the beginning, my department is mainly all of the expenses are people and salaries and benefits. It includes one finance director, one accounts payable and payroll manager, and 2 finance specialists, and then obviously funding all of the retiree expenses that go along with that. We have the regular salary increase across the board for non-union staff, and then we have the union staff that are in my department, which I believe everybody should be familiar with. So there is an increase of 45,743 for that section of it. Next slide, please. So overall operational, again, this is just recapping the previous slides that we looked at. Overall, we're looking at for a 50,609 increase for the finance department, which includes all of the operational expenses, salaries, and benefits. And questions?
Go ahead, Tim.
So the first question I have, Gail, is software. I am working for a company right now. We're going through kind of a painful process of finding an accounting software that works for the company. And do you feel like our software works for the town at large in terms of its functionality, or do you anticipate we're going to need to do some type of upgrade or overhaul at some point?
It works very well, especially if you're doing fund accounting. That's a huge part, obviously, of what we do. My entire career, I've worked with nonprofits, and I've utilized a lot of different softwares. And this is a great software. It was new to me when I came here. You can log into it remotely. I mean, I think the only downfall that it has is that it's not stored in the cloud, which I've worked with software that does that, and that works very well to have it all stored in the cloud. But other than that, I certainly would recommend it. We are the only municipality in the state of Vermont that utilizes this software. It's very common in other areas, but we are the only ones.
Is there a reason why it doesn't put the information into the cloud? Because I would wonder if that would be more of a danger of hacking.
I couldn't answer that question for you, Mary. I'm sorry. If it's something you would like me to look into, I can, but I don't. I know that everything's saved on the servers that we have here for the town.
Thank you, Gail. Other questions? There.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Gail. I want to circle back to a question that I asked by email and you answered by email, but I'm not entirely sure. So I just want to confirm that I understand it. With regard to the contracted services for the audit, the actual for 2024 was roughly 15,800, 14,800, 14,792 specifically for 2025. And then in 2026, it was budgeted at 39.5. And then for the current year, for the 27 budget, we're budgeting it for 25. I'm trying to understand. I know you responded and you said that a prior board wanted to see the actual. So I assume those are referring to 2024 and 2025. But I'm trying to understand the big jump to the 2026 budget and then the now sort of decrease to the 25,000 for the estimate for 2027.
Sure. So there's a couple of factors that take into place. When we start the audit, we're starting at we're going to be starting the 2026 budget in May of this year, May of 2027. We're going to start paying out on expenses for the 2027 audit in 2026. They're constantly crossing fiscal years because of how the services are performed. And what we had done historically was we always put in the budget line what the contract was for that particular fiscal year. We would then encumber those funds because we knew as of June 30th that we would not have the budget completed, the audit completed. So having discussions with the previous boards, they've asked that we only put in the amount that we feel estimated that would be paid during that fiscal year. So rather than encumbering the funds, paying it from an open purchase order, we're now just putting in an estimated amount. The other part that plays a role in it is if you're going to have a single audit. A single audit costs a lot more than a regular audit. This past year, we had a single audit. This coming year that we're in 26 right now, looking at the numbers that we have, I don't think that the town of Hartford is going to need a single audit unless something significantly changes. Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that helps. Thank you.
Okay, Tim, did you have another question?
Well, I was just thinking in the sense of like the idea that an audit representing any given fiscal year, there must be a cost. Yes, I understand the accounting math, but perhaps it would be better if the town just knew like, hey, every audit that we do costs us 50 grand or whatever the number is, so that people just kind of understand that. I mean, the accounting component of that I understand in terms of how it looks on the books, But it's
Yes.
kind of nice to know, okay, an annual audit of how our cost us X.
Yeah, we actually went out to RFP last year. And the audit firm that was selected was the current firm that we have now, which is Mudgett, Jennett, Krog, and Weisner. And we have a contract with them through 2027. The 2025 audit is 33,000. And then plus an additional funding if you'll have a single audit. 2026, it went up to 3,400. Again, if you have a single audit, it'll increase by 5,500. For 2027, it's 35,000. And then again, another additional 5,500 if you have a single audit. We do have another audit that's done within the town, which is done for the TIF district, which is the tax increment financing district, which is completely separate, and that is paid specifically from TIF revenue.
Cool.
Okay, any other questions for Gail? Ida?
Sure, so I'll just go back to my question that I had up on the slide here, just about my napkin math of the salary increase. I'm sure there's an explanation I'm missing here, but
No, it's specifically about benefits and what employees choose, which is not something that I'm going to disclose what everybody's election is, but benefits are very expensive. The salary increases is what everybody else has in their departments. The union increase and then the non-union staff.
right. Okay.
Sorry, I can't give you more
Yeah.
specifics per person or whatever, but
No,
it's-
yeah, just in general, just I guess for everybody else, like, the union increases are typically around 4%, and then there's a new union that's getting around a 5% increase in raise, and our health insurance benefits are increasing around what,
Section.
under 5%, right?
A small amount, but one has
Yeah.
one has to recognize that there's been some turnover in that department. I don't mean to speak out of school,
Yeah,
but some estimates have to be made as to what future employees might select as health insurance, for example.
right.
Yeah, because there's definitely a huge difference between a single employee and the cost of having an employee that chooses to have a family plan.
Right. Thank you. Any other questions?
No.
Okay, is there anybody online?
Zoom window I'm sharing. No hands on.
You.
And I think we covered, oops, sorry, go ahead, Eric.
Audit.
I think we covered the audit,
Yes.
talking about that, so I'm not sure if anybody has any questions regarding that. The only thing I'll point out is that the threshold for a single audit was 750,000. It has now changed to $1 million. And that represents your federal expenditures that need to be reported. And so, as I stated earlier, looking at what we have so far through November, I'm not seeing that we'll probably need a single audit unless something significantly changes. I mean, if we get some exceptional grants between now and the end of the fiscal year, that will be different. And then again, they have to be executed. It's not just because you're getting awarded a grant, you actually have to expend those funds.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. Really appreciate it. Always
Thank
a
you.
lot more complex than we initially think.
And Gail's not done yet.
I'm not. I'm going to be doing the presentation for the information technology department. Our department head for that department is unavailable to be here. So I'm going to go through the slides and do the best that I can to do it justice. And I believe that Dylan will be back next week for your meeting on Tuesday, December 2nd, and he will be able to answer any questions that you have for this evening. And as well, Eric also has sent some questions that will be responded to as well when Dylan returns. There is one slide that's in here that we're going to skip over that talks about the townwide camera system. Unfortunately, there was not anybody available from HPD this evening because they have another event that's happening to be able to come and speak to that. So that will be addressed on December 2nd as well, if any of you had questions, or if the public had questions, I recommend that you come back on December 2nd and address them then.
Gail, if we have a question that's conceivably related to a budget in the future that has to do with cybersecurity, can we, should we wait for a while, or can we address it through email, a question to Dylan? What's the best?
I would defer to the town manager, as he's the supervisor of all the departments. I know what my opinion would be, but I will defer to him.
Yeah, feel free to send me any questions you have,
Okay.
and when I have access to Dylan, I'll be happy to pass them along.
Okay, that's great, thank you.
All right, so be patient with me, and Dylan has told me that trust me, I'm the only one he trusts to do this, so hopefully I do it. Hopefully I do him some justice for sure.
Coming from IT.
Yeah, absolutely. So currently the IT department is made up of an IT director and a help desk technician. As far as the wages go, there's a small increase there. You can see it increased 6,500 and some change. As far as the benefits goes, there is a decrease in the benefits part of it. Again, I'll say what I said earlier regarding the finance department. I can't disclose, what employees choose for election of coverage. Next slide, please. This is a slide that I'm actually pretty happy that he put it in here. Last year was the first year that we took the IT director position and spread it across the entire town. It's really important, as you can imagine, similar to the finance director and as well as some other department heads. We provide services to the entire town. So my perspective last year was, well, why does the general fund have to carry all those expenses? Why can't that be spread across to everybody in town? So this slide represents, yes, the IT director is split 50% for the general fund and then 12.5% across the enterprise funds. I mentioned to Dylan that I would recommend that the board consider splitting the IT technician that works underneath him. Similar services, he does the same exact thing. He provides services across the town. So currently the budget that's put in front of you does not include this IT technician to be spread across the town. So I would recommend that you take that into consideration as you're doing your budget wrap-up session. I know that the town manager has it in his notes as well. We need to share the expense to where it needs to go. And next slide, please. So responsibilities of the IT department, infrastructure and project management. As you can imagine, we have a substantial amount of infrastructure across the town and access points. He manages through them through their life cycles and oversees all of the upgrades that we have. Technical support for all of our staff. And I believe when the HR director gave her presentation, we're well over 100 staff right now. And so that's a lot of infrastructure, a lot of touch points. And I can say just for the finance department, for the 4 people that we have, I keep them busy. And so I can't imagine what they have on their plate with everybody else. Cybersecurity is a huge piece. And I'm very proud of our IT department. When the IT director started a few years ago, not that we were in bad shape, but times change. And change is hard for a lot of people. And that means improving systems. It means educating and training and setting up those, what are they called? Like safe, setting you up to make a mistake. Like they'll be sending you different spam emails, and are you going to bite for it? And so making sure that everybody's aware of what's happening. And also, again, specifically for the finance department, I think we all know in the past couple of years, a lot of the municipalities have been attacked with cyber things. And unfortunately, their staff was not educated properly. And a lot of those towns lost a lot of money. And I'm proud to say that, you know, we have a great IT department that is always challenging us to make sure that we're up to speed on where we need to be. Identity and access management. Big part of that is making sure that people have what they need. We want to make sure that people have what they need, but we want to make sure they don't have too much. Make sure everybody has the proper access that they have. My access that I have would not be the same as what a finance specialist would have. Same thing in the police department. You know, there's different levels of access, and making sure that we're looking at it and making sure that we're reviewing it on a regular basis is extremely important. What else do we have? Compliance, rotating your passwords. You know, you think that that's something that's pretty simple for people to do, but those hackers that are out there, they're really good. They're pretty intelligent, and they're doing a lot of damage, and we're thankful that we have that extra challenges and making sure that we're making the changes that we need to. And then one of the other areas that was brought up was the criminal justice information system, and making sure that we have compliance in that area. Not going to pretend to tell you that I know what all of that means, but again, when Dylan is here next week, he can certainly provide you more information on that. Next slide, please. So on this slide, you'll see contracted services. That's a huge part of the IT department budget, with the exception of people and the benefits. And the overall increase for this year, for 2026, he's looking at 25,000 and some change. And you can see the individual line items, which those increases reflect. And just for those of you and me who aren't the greatest on acronyms, if you go about halfway down the slide, the MFA, that's a multi-factor authorization. That's something that most of us use. It means you just can't log into something. That gives you need to do a couple different things to be able to log into either the software, your email, get on the server. Again, it's all about safety and making sure that we keep the bad apples out of getting access to all of our information. Looking at the software part of it, the Synchro is it's a software system that we put into place a couple of years ago that allows the IT department to remote into computers. It also does our ticket system. It's really important when you only have 2 people working in the IT department with such a large town like we have, to be able to give them the ability to log into our computers, no matter where we are, no matter where they are, to be able to go in and make those fixes. If we didn't have that, I would say you probably need to increase the IT department by at least 5 people. So it's definitely a great investment that we have. And then the other mention that he had asked me to talk about was the abnormal security. That's an email. It's a new email filter, that was previously handled by our dark trace vendor that we are now implementing. So hopefully I'm not murdering his overall presentation. Next slide, please. And then no changes here for our managed services. Our managed services assists our IT department in those higher escalation items that we have. It also is a backup in the event that our IT department got wiped out. We need to have somebody that would be able to step in and assist at the higher level. Next slide, please. Looking to increase the website. This is something that's been discussed for many years. And these are a few items that the IT department is looking at. One is the audio eye. This is would improve accessibility for visually impaired individuals. The second part is the social media archiving. An example of this, an example of this would be a Facebook post where there is threatening information that we could remove the post, but also keep a copy of it and be able to revisit it afterwards. The next part is the process automation for custom apps and landing pages for major events. An example of this would be the Queechy Balloon Festival. There are a lot of questions that go around that particular event. You would be able to have an app that is specific to that event for parking, vendors, timing, etc. Basically to answer frequently asked questions for a different event, for whatever that we're having. Next slide, please. And we are going to skip this one. This is one that I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation for a camera in town that the IT director and HPD will follow up with you on that. As I mentioned, the IT department currently has 2 staff members. As the needs increase for the town, as we expand our services, we need to think about expanding in the IT department as well. And there's many different reasons why we should do that. And we're not looking to do it in this next fiscal year, but I think as you're looking into 2028, you should take that in consideration. My understanding is the directive that was given to department heads was only put in what you need, but also put a plug in for what you would like to do in the future. So this is a plug for the future. IT department is going to need to expand at some point. I'm at the end of that. I'm happy to answer any questions that I possibly can. And if I can't, I know that Dylan will be able to answer them for you when he returns.
Okay. Ashley?
Thank you. I'm putting a couple questions that I think definitely will fall into Dylan's court in an email and sending that to you, John. But a question I think you could help me with, Gail, is when you were talking about splitting the costs of, for example, the IT director and maybe for the help desk person across the departments, can you help me understand like the benefit? Because if I think about it from a like taxpayer impact perspective, what is the difference, I guess, to the overall budget and to, at the end of the day, maybe the taxpayer or the different departments if we do it that way?
Sure. So again, very similar to myself, the town manager, and there's a few other department heads that we're split between the general fund and all of the enterprise funds. So if your salary and benefits was 125,000, it's all being charged to the general fund, but we're doing services for everybody. So if you want to split it and say 50% goes to the general fund, the remaining 75,000 will be split across the enterprise funds. So that reduces the tax burden, which reduces the tax rate and what the taxpayers have to pay.
Because then we would increase.
You would be increasing the
rates for
enterprise. You would be
services.
moving that expense over to the enterprise funds, which they have a little bit more flexibility, as I'm sure that all of you know now, when you heard from the public works director, than as far as the general fund goes.
That's ratepayer.
Right, so can I just expanding on that a bit, just to make it really like, brass tacks basics. So the general fund is paid by property owners.
That's correct. Property taxes.
Property
and
taxes.
then so with the enterprise funds, those are for services that are also paid by people, by individuals who own properties for water and sewer, correct?
Right, so the enterprise fund, so the difference between those two groups of people, those two tax bases, people who own property in town and people who own property that is connected to the
Water and
municipal
Correct.
services. So it's overlap, but the general fund covers a bigger group of people. Everyone who pays into the general fund, or everyone who pays into an enterprise fund is also paying into the general fund.
But not everyone who pays into the general fund is paying pays into the enterprise.
So yeah, so it is. I don't know if to get back to your question, what is the benefit to taxpayers?
There is a benefit because there's a lot more flexibility when you have an enterprise fund. An enterprise fund is a for-profit fund, I guess, is better word to say. It's a business entity versus the town of Hartford, for the taxpayers, we want to get as close to a zero-based budgeting and lower the tax rate the best that we can. Because the business funds have more flexibility, it's not, I don't want to say it's not that big of an impact on people that pay those rates. It's a different type of impact because the expenses are less. The overall operations of them is certainly much less than the general fund. There's also there's opportunity for a lot of debt forgiveness. We have a couple different infrastructure loans through the state that you can, that, you know, are $500,000 that we're getting forgiven completely. Those are not opportunities that we have in the general fund. So I'm just saying that there's, yes, I understand what you're saying. You're just taking it from one pot and putting it over to another one to pay, but there's just more flexibility in the enterprise fund. I don't know how else to make it more.
No, that's super helpful.
That's
Thank
helpful.
you. Yeah,
I didn't know
that's-
that there were, because they're enterprise funds, that there were other funding opportunities at the state level that can.
Correct.
that can Contribute to those. Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
and to reduce expenses, you know, we just recently, well, not me, but you as a board and the town manager and public works just signed off on a couple forgivable loans through the water and wastewater through the state of Vermont. You're getting
Asset management funding, yeah.
correct. So you're getting a substantial amount of money. We've had multiple projects during my tenure here that were 100% forgiven. You don't have that option through the general fund.
Tim?
I understand that, but I this has always bothered me, and I think it's a little flawed. And the reason why, and it's not because I'm on water and sewer, full disclosure, but it's because I think we're placing a excessive burden on those enterprise funds for overhead. So as a town, we have, you know, and I've seen this in other businesses where you have, you know, administrative overhead, and in a not-for-profit thing, as you probably know, there's a cap. Like you can't have administrative overhead over, say, 15% or whatever. So there's sort of like a guardrail there. And so we're taking a lot of our like broad town roles, and we're kind of trying to do this allocation, which is, I understand why you're doing it. But I think that it's too heavy on the enterprise funds. I do not believe, for example, if you really start to look at the people's time on a year-to-year basis, is not necessarily spent on the enterprise funds. You know, like if you took the percentages and you said, okay, is JD Hawks really spending half of his time belonging in the enterprise funds, maybe for communicating about water and sewer, but I think it for me, it feels a little heavy on enterprise funds, honestly. And I think that we should do a little bit of thinking that maybe there's some other metrics that we should be using, that is to say head count, budget size, or other metrics to really kind of just make sure that that's kind of true or accurate. Because I think and obviously for different people, like I was struck by Chris Holsworth as an example. There's no highway for him. And I'm kind of perplexed by that because he does a ton of like highway, stuff. And so his allocations are only in 50, 55, 60, and 65. So I'm not sure why that is, but maybe there's a reason. So anyway, I think it's worth reviewing and thinking about that. Are these allocations really accurate for taking that overhead and allocating it back out? So that's all. Thank you.
I think it's a great opportunity for you, or a fresh board, with the exception of Mary and Mike. I think it's a great opportunity for you to take a look at different avenues to do that. I recommend that you do that. I think it would be great that you do, but it's a lot of homework and you have a very short period of time to do it. So if you're going to commit as a board to do the homework and be prepared, then I think that that's great to come back with different suggestions for it. But if you're not going to do the homework, I don't think this is the year to do it.
Yeah.
Other questions? Eric?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So that we don't make a mistake, what would you describe as the homework?
I think reviewing, starting with what Tim said, and that would be, if you look at everybody that you have that's being allocated, all of you should know who it is. If you looked at the budget books, you know who's being allocated and who isn't. Reach out to the town manager, ask him to reach out to, like me. How much time do I give to the enterprise funds versus what I do for the general fund? Chris Allsworth, what do you do? I mean, Chris Allsworth is a great question. Chris came to you just in the past few months with a paving contract, which is clearly highway. So I think that would be a good thing to do. I would start the communication with the town manager based on the budget book. And that's what I'm talking about with homework. That's going to require you to go through the budget book, read the narrative. What does it say? Come together as a board and make the decision. Obviously, don't send everybody off on a wild goose chase. You need to be in agreement when you make those requests, is what I would say.
And I think there is a 3-page document that shows the allocations
Yeah.
of those staff that are spread out.
And I wasn't trying to suggest, like, I understand that tendency to take administrative overhead and sort of say, okay, where does this belong in terms of cost and being fair and allocating it properly? And I think just over time, it can kind of drift from the reality of where those cost centers really should be sitting.
And absent daily timesheets,
Mhm.
we're having to make judgment calls.
Yeah, we don't want people keeping daily journals. That would not be good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Is there anybody online?
No hands.
Okay. All right.
So before I leave, this is my last meeting, so I just want to make sure that I say thank you to my staff in the finance department, Florentina Rollins, Carrie Thibodeau, who is no longer with us. She's actually over in Hanover enjoying life. And I just want to say thank you to them. And obviously to all the admins that work for the department heads, all of the department heads, they're amazing. And we have successful, transparent, and accurate audits because we're a team and because we follow policies and we follow procedures. I know that I'm probably one of the most unpopular people with the town staff because I'm always pushing back, but what we have in place works. So as I ride off into the sunset, my recommendation is, don't stray too far from those policies and procedures. They work. Don't cut the corners. Don't do it just because it's easy. You need to do the work up front. I know it's hard, but do it. Just don't continue to make, exceptions to the purchasing policy or overlook stuff because you don't want to do the work. We've come a long way. When I came to work here in Hartford, you had 10 plus years of audit findings and you were not a low audit riskee. And all of that stuff is very important for you to continue moving forward, getting the funding that you need, whether it's for grant funding, state funding, federal funding. Continue to do a great job and do what's best for the town of Hartford and their residents. And I guess that's all that I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. So we will then move on to consider proposal for the 250th Committee and Hartford Alumni Association for parade funding.
Hello, everybody. So for the record, I'm Linda Simon Miller, and I live in the Jericho District in Hartford. And primarily, I'm representing the Hartford High School Alumni Association. We have the full endorsement of the 250th Commemoration Committee. So just a bit of history. I'm going to give you a little history, and I am going to read it because I will forget otherwise. So George and I graduated from Hartford High School in 1976, and it was a really pretty great year. David Briggs just reminded me recently that that was the first year that Hartford hosted their big fireworks, and look at us later, 50 years later, we're still running that big fireworks. There was a whole lot of patriotism that year. In my yearbook, we have a whole center section that's all about the bicentennial, and it was really pretty fabulous. We're not seeing that as much today, and we're trying to get us back to that same energy. George and I, along with about a dozen classmates, participated in something called the cannon pull. And the guys in our class actually pulled a cannon from Ludlow to Mount Holly. We were simulating the Henry Knox trip from Fort Ticonderoga to the Continental Army outside of Boston. And it was a great way to get the youth and the town excited about the bicentennial. I mean, we would never have known about that otherwise. So the 250th committee is working hard to bring that same energy to this commemoration, the semi-quincentennial, in case you don't know, that's what it's called. We're planning to host an encampment at the Kilowatt Park with reenactors in May, as well as helping the Alumni Association put on the best parade we can possibly have in 2026. So the Hartford Alumni Association has renamed the parade in honor of the occasion. So it will be known as the Hartford Commemorates America's 250th Parade. And in order to really make the best parade we can have, we really need additional funding. So the current Hartford Alumni Association has really great volunteers, but there's very few of us. So we're looking to ask the select board to place an article on the ballot in March, asking the taxpayers to authorize the expenditure of $10,000 from the local option taxes toward the annual parade. And the parade will be held on June 27. So again, and I don't know if you all know this, but even the little Shriners units and the bands that we have in the parade, each and every one of those cost us money. So I think people are, I talked to somebody today and they said, no, don't you get those guys for free? It's like, no, we really don't.
That's true of the police detail as well. Yes.
We pay for the police detail. Yes. So as we wrote in our memo, the Alumni Day events have courageously been put together by this small band of people. And the purpose of the Hartford Alumni Association is to reunite alumni and foster loyalty and interest in the town of Hartford and the Hartford High School, in addition to having a scholarship program that we support graduating students every year. So the success of the day leads up to us having the potential for that scholarship fund. So once the 2026 parade is the success we anticipate it will be, it will make it easier for the Hartford Alumni Association to reach out to our local and distant alumni requesting for their continued support. We really think this is going to be the catalyst that's going to get people charged up about this parade. The event brings people home to Hartford and brings money into the local economy. And it's a showcase for the community, which enhances our civic pride. And I think all residents here benefited. You don't have to be an alumni in order to love a parade. So as a taxpayer, I see this is a very good thing, obviously. And alumni do not see themselves linked just to this Hartford School District. I think there's some sort of a thought that it's all about the alumni in the school system. It's really, we have pride in being from the town of Hartford. So the more we can bring the town of the Hartford and the school district together, I think the better. So if you have any questions, that's all I have. And David Briggs is here and Phil Sargent, they're also on the committee with me. So if we have any questions, let us know.
Now's the time. Does anybody have any questions? Tim?
I love what you're saying, and I love the idea. But the question I have is a little bit on the school side, because I sort of feel like I'm not sure what we're budgeting for the 250th as a town within that committee, if you will, within the town. But it seems like, you know, for me, like for the funds to be directed specifically to that, and they're allocated as required for promotion or whatever you do it, use it. I think that's perfect. But because it kind of appends a little bit to the alumni component, and I'm not saying they're separate universes, but I feel like the school should you know, perhaps match funds or do something on their end. And it's a little bit of a philosophy thing for me that, you know, I mean, I went to Windsor High School and the alumni is run through the school. They have you know, they do what they do, and they, you know, and every year they would like more money to make things work. But I just really feel that philosophically, there should be either a separation that it's the 250th or the alumni. And if it is the alumni, I really think the school should be involved as well.
Do you want to speak to it? You can.
David Briggs, White River. Tim, you know that you and I line up on this. The way we've looked at this, as Linda said, it's a catalyst. And we're bringing together the Alumni Association, coincidentally, the 250th year, to trigger an event such as we've never been able to pull off before. 250th is the inspiration for that. But the undying belief in the civic pride aspect, the economic development support, people come from out of town, is the foundational thing. We're excited because candidly, the Alumni Association has not been as effective as it could be, given the strength and the prosperity of our graduates across the country. So we're excited about what this will do to boost the monetary support from that cohort that comes home incrementally, but never really forgets. So my personal pledge to the committee, having been on the peripheral over the years, is to get deeply involved in development work. And so that's one of the side benefits of this support. And I agree with you that we then would turn to the school district more emphatically to say this is a good thing for all, because that full circle piece is the scholarship fund that boosts our students in a much more significant way.
Yeah, and I probably should be going to a school board meeting to say this instead of here, but I have to say I'm really struck by Hartford because there's graduates that do incredible things in the world. And I really think the school indeed needs to do a lot more work of talking about that. I know a lot of graduates from Hartford that both here and other places have done amazing things. And yet we don't hear about the alumni as much as we should. And I think that's part of that, to get that energy into that. But right. It's just the concept of us sort of providing what you might call seed money, as opposed to, that belonging with the school in terms of the parade. So I just think it's an important distinction between the 250th, celebration, which I think we should fund fully, and the school alumni work. And I understand why you're blending them, but I'm not convinced that's a great strategy. That's just my thoughts.
Eric?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tim, I'm glad I let you speak first, because basically your initial comments were what I was going to say as well. I had the same reaction when I read this, is that the school district should be approached. In addition to businesses, the local business community is a direct benefit. The town municipality is less, perhaps benefits, but perhaps less directly. I think the proposal here is great. I think we should support it. I would be in favor of supporting it by funding the 250th commemoration committee rather than what's being proposed as a local option tax item on the ballot. I think it's just cleaner if we do it that way. I just have a feeling, back when that fund was created, it was called on the ballot, it was called a capital reserve fund. And it wasn't until recently that I learned that there's a difference between capital reserve funds, and you can use them for more things than just capital assets. And so, that's one potential area of confusion for voters. And it's a small item. I think we just fund it through the general fund and allow the 250th committee to have a budget to do with what they see fit, perhaps on a matching basis.
One problem is timing. The new budget won't be effective until July 1st. The parade is June 27th.
Good point. I missed those dates.
So that's why on our proposal, we had asked that we receive the funds immediately after.
If the taxpayers agree to this, then we would have the disbursement in March. Because again, we have to put down deposits for.
So arguably we could put it on the ballot, but as we've described, we could put it as a line item specific to the 250th celebration.
No, because it'll be in the FY27, right?
Yeah, putting it in the budget doesn't get the money available until July 1st.
Right.
So unfortunately, the finance director has left the room, but the question would be, is there we're not talking about a huge sum of money. Does the board have discretion over, we have an unassigned fund balance of 2.6 million. That can't be used except for things for emergency, but do we have funds elsewhere that might be that we might be able to reallocate? And
One would think in a $22 million budget, you'd be able to find $10,000 to reallocate. But certainly if you'd like, I can confirm that with the finance director as early as tomorrow.
Yeah, if there's a pathway to do that, I think
You'd prefer to do that than to have it as a local option tax ballot article.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a strong feeling on my part, but I think it would just be cleaner. That's just my, it's more of a preference that I have a hard
And
time.
it's more certain in terms
defending.
of outcome.
Thank you.
Ashley?
Yeah, I guess I have a different perspective that is maybe relevant to is definitely 100% relevant to the efforts that come ahead of planning for the parade. So I've attended the parade and the picnic over the years, and there's no doubt that there is low participation, especially from younger alumni. And so one of my questions is, like, what is the committee or this kind of working group doing to engage some of the younger Hartford alumni in town, who I think just aren't showing up and are here and for whatever reason are disconnected, which piggybacks on one of the ideas that I have, which is that I like the idea of matching funds. And if there could be a fundraising campaign which would raise the funds and engage people along the way that will then hopefully be excited about and come out and support the parade, that you'd kind of be killing two birds with one stone. We wouldn't be taking on the full burden to the taxpayers, and we'd build up some of that excitement and like buy-in, I guess. And I want to echo that I would be totally happy to help in those fundraising efforts and in drawing out, if I can, younger folks to help as well. Because I'm like, where's class 2010? You know, and I think that we need to step up and start helping to like carry the torch here. And that could be in a fundraising campaign. So that's, but I also agree that we should fully fund the committee, and that I'd be okay if we don't end up doing like a matching kind of thing, if that's what other board members are happy to do.
Can I ask a clarifying question? So the 250 is embedded in Parks and Rec. So do we have funds?
Well, here's a point to make. The 250th was established, and that committee made it clear that they did not want funding.
Right.
So what just to answer a little bit further, so the Hartford Historical Society had about $6,000 left over from when the Hartford commemorated their 250th. So with that fund went to the Hartford commemorates the semi-quincentennial. So that's why we felt we already had $6,000. We didn't want to burden the town at that point. And again, our notion was that the Alumni Association was going to be putting on this parade anyway. And could we just have them rename the parade and be the Hartford commemorates the 250th. And then when I sat down in October of the first meeting that I attended, it became clear that that the association volunteers are tired. And you're right, Ashley, it would be lovely if we had young people, but we don't. And so, you know, we do the fundraising. I mean, we will continue. I think maybe David, do you know, or Phil, I think we make about maybe $5,000 to $10,000 a year that we already fundraise. So this would be additional to that. And then the idea is, you know, this is the big splash, man. This is Hartford is going to be commemorating this parade, the semi-quincentennial. So it's got to look good. And if it's just with the 5,000 that we currently have, it's not going to look great.
So it sounds like, go ahead, Ida.
Thanks, Mary. Yeah, just to follow up, sort of following the thread of some the ideas that Ashley put forward. And it's wonderful to hear that you do a significant amount of fundraising, it sounds like, and that you have support from the community in that way. I just wondered, this, like, building on this idea of a matching sort of effort, if it would be possible to hear like what your actual fundraising goal is. I mean, you might not have that right now, if it's somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000,
Right.
and then
It is.
Yeah, and then could it support your fundraising efforts if the town committed to matching the amount that you raise as a committee?
I think that the parade this year will not be the substantial parade we are hoping it to be. So, you know, we will still, I think, again, the effort that the committee, the Alumni Association can put forth, and again, the 250th members are also helping out, but I don't think that we're going to get anywhere near above the 5,000 to 10,000 we currently raise.
Right, but if you got close to the 10,000, then we would match. That's what I'm
So
saying.
then we would get to 20,000. Is that what you're saying? You would match it with 10,000 more?
Yeah, I'm saying whatever amount that your target goal is to raise, if you think you can raise 10,000, then this could be a conditional like matching budget line item.
David, do you have anything you want to say about that?
I think the theory is good, but you're asking a group that's been pretty tired out to double down. We took the approach that using the spirit of the 250th, that we could really do a heck of a deal this year, and that inspires many other people to get on board, myself included. One of the metrics that occurred to me when Tim mentioned Hartford graduates might be to do a survey to find out how many PhDs do we have from Hartford High School across the nation. Might be pretty surprised, but that's an indicator of the potential and the ability of people that go on from dear old Hartford to do things that are beyond the scale, I guess you'd say, of more provincial areas like this. So it's a chicken and egg kind of moment, and we're saying in the moment of the 250th, come with us on this venture. And we're not asking it for to be a serial repeated thing. We think this is a catalyst. Linda's word is the right word for this.
Yeah.
So it makes a great parade on a year when we're finally starting to ramp up the development efforts on a more sophisticated level than a kind of a bake sale approach, local fundraiser. We really want to go to all the Hartford alumni and see what comes of that.
Is there anybody online?
No hands.
Okay, did you say you had another question?
Yeah, just one final comment is that I think my only concern, I want it to be, I'm hoping that you are right and that it is this big thing. My fear is that we will fully fund it, and then there's not that grassroots groundswell kind of movement behind it, and then it's not as attended as, or doesn't have as many participants as it could if the fundraising was also part of the groundswell for the event. And I hear you that people are burnt out. But yeah,
I didn't mean totally burned out. I'm excited about the idea that having raised the $5,000 to $8,000 we do every year, scrapping around, that's going to be easy this year with the news that the town, the community has gotten behind this. And other people, such as myself and others, will start to say, yeah, we're behind this. I think with regard to younger classes, I think it's probably true that you don't start to think in quite the sentimental, substantial way about your high school until around the 10th year to begin with. I'm really excited about going for those older classes 20 years and beyond, because it's compelling then. And that's what's kept this thing glued together with not much support.
Yeah.
Very few people have worked very hard to do this. They deserve better.
One might say that the opportunity to politic and lobby in favor of a local option tax ballot article might be a means by which you are engaging with the public and getting them excited about the event and all of its other offshoots. Just a thought.
John, I have a quick question. Unlike appropriations, what's the process so that other people understand it?
You have until January, middle of January, when we finalize the town warning,
Right.
to decide what items and articles you'd like to put to the voters in the town warning.
Okay, what do you think about waiting until John has at least talked with Gail about financing before we make a decision?
Yeah, and again, I want to emphasize, I didn't want to start out as Debbie Downer, because I love what you guys are doing. For me, it's more like, I think there's a value to separating that. And that's just my thoughts. And again, in the whole scheme of things, for us to click through a ballot initiative for $10,000 is kind of a no brainer, but it's more a matter of like, and to the extent you have approached the school or the school board and asked for a similar, I like the match idea, just the spirit of it of like, hey, town and school, we're getting together You got 10, now you got 20, go for it, like, do great work. But I just think there's something for me a little bit like, because I have been on the school board as well, that I just feel like they should step up too, you know?
Tim, are you suggesting that having taken this initiative, we now double down our efforts and go to them and tell them that we've done this and join us?
Yeah, I mean, we could do a little game, a little match game, you know, like, you know,
Right.
sort of a dirty.
But in the world where they said no, hypothetically, and we proceeded on bravely with what we're proposing to do and prove the point, if they wouldn't go with us the subsequent year, that'd be pretty telling. So
Yeah, I mean, it'd be very perplexing to me to have a school who represents the alum and the community as we do at large would say no to matching funds with a town. I mean, I don't want to speak for them, but I'll go to the meeting if you'd like.
would be very happy to have that support. Having spoken to a few school board members, I think we're in a good place on this.
Yeah, can I just,
Ashley?
I just want to echo Tim's, I would not want to come out as a Debbie Downer on this particular event or initiative. But one of the very few things of what when I ran for select board this time around, I was like, one thing I feel I would like to, that is maybe feasible to happen, is to bolster volunteerism in the town and try to, like, what are the creative ways that we can unburden the tax base with community, like a revitalized community efforts and volunteerism. So that's something I'm hoping to pursue across the board, and just want to echo that I do really support the parade, and I'm excited.
And I just wanted to mention that one of the big ideas for the parade and to have it a bigger parade is we have a group of, I think there's 4 or 5 folks that are planning going to businesses and say, you know, look at this, we're anticipating a huge crowd. We really are. And we'll have your van in. I just saw something called the Cowbell. It's a bike repair or something. Have them in the parade. I mean, what better way for them to get their name out there, right?
Yeah.
And so people are going to be knocking on those doors, and, you know, the DAV van and whatever, so that the parade has more interest in what you're seeing in the parade. So we will have folks going to those. And oh, by the way, when we're going to be saying, and by the way, can you give us a donation towards our newsletter? And that's also part of our fundraising is, you know, we gather money from their little ad in the newsletter. So, and it goes out to a lot of people.
And if people wanted to get involved with helping to volunteer, fundraise, plan, who should they reach out to?
You can let me know, have them let me know, but it's Jean Rousey is the president, and she's not able to be here tonight, but she would be probably the best person to actually reach out to.
And I'm guessing that's on the town website under the.
I bet it's not on the town website.
Well, I will look and I'll circle back if I can't find the contact.
But I can send you Ashley her, there's an email address for the Hartford Alumni Association, Gmail.
Awesome.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
I'd like to say on behalf of Jean, who's bravely kept this committee together for quite a few years now. She's a member of the class of 1964, which is one of the most amazing classes of Hartford High.
You can only imagine why.
Yes. I'm guessing you didn't graduate in 65, David.
Thank you. Okay.
That's unfortunate when everybody knows the 79 to a degree.
Competition everywhere.
Was a great year.
It's just the spirit we're trying to generate right here.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So yeah, do we need to, what? Yeah.
Well, I think we're just going to, before we make any kind of
Yes.
motion, we're
And
gonna
we
ask John to
can,
come
as
back
you,
with some
as you
information.
will see a little bit later, when we talk about decisions that need to be made, that's among them, because
Right.
you'll have some decisions about what ballot articles relating to lot you would like to put on the ballot.
Right.
So rest assured that even though we're not, doing it now, it will not be lost on us
Right.
as we,
Thank you, Linda. Thank you, David.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now we will move on to review 2026 banner request, Hometown Heroes.
Or Hartford Heroes, I should say.
That's right. It
Yep.
is.
Thank you, board members. thank you for working on the previous thing also. I'm on the 250th committee and we've been having a lot of fun. So our application is real simple. Per the policy, we're allowed to have 18 per village for up to 60-ish days. And so that's what we have before you.
And I'm just having to figure out what's the dates.
I put down on the application May 16th to 7/18.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for this?
One quick question. So in terms of the villages, are you gonna take the 18 and do some at West Hartford and some within White River? Are you gonna do full saturation in White River?
Yeah. I'm still working on that.
Yeah.
Right now, we only have town poles that we can use. That's what this is for.
Mhm.
And we only have brackets and poles that the town owns in Hartford Village and White River Junction. So I've been working very slowly, but I've been working with Green Mountain Power to put some on their poles. And that's been a long process, way longer than I imagined. Some of their staff members basically gave the green light to it and said, go ahead. And then that was more, I think, in their headquarters, probably in Montpelier. And then talking to the local folks here, they were scratching their heads. And one thing that came up, do you have town permission to put them on these poles yet? Well, that's the chicken before the egg kind of thing. I don't have permission to do that. That would be a separate thing. But anyways, I'm still working on that. So currently, it's very doubtful they would be anywhere but Hartford and White River.
So just to follow up to that, I'm happy to help you with. I have noticed there are poles like further down South Main that have never been utilized, and yet they have the bracketing. So maybe what would be a valuable exercise is to inventory the existing infrastructure in terms of the poles, how many are in each place. And then maybe there's some redistribution that could go on where that some of the hardware that's not being utilized on South Main could go to West Hartford or whatever. But if you want some help with that effort, because I've always been intrigued by, what we have for hardware and available poles.
I think we have an electronic map.
Yeah,
Is
and
that
I
right?
think also Kim Souza
Right.
actually walked
Okay.
Right, I think
So
there is
so
such a thing.
everything and noticed which
But
ones.
there's not town light poles like in West Hartford. So
Mhm.
there's literally not a
You
town
gotta come up
pole that you
here.
could get a
Oh, yeah.
bracket to.
Yeah. If you need help with that, but
Yeah, that's probably a very long process. So pretty much Hartford and White River.
Eric, did you say you have a question?
No, Madam Chair, I have a motion if you're ready for it.
Okay, I'll take a
I
motion.
want to truncate the discussion, but this one seems
Yeah.
pretty straightforward. So I don't see a motion here. I'm just going to make it up on the fly, and if it works,
It works.
great. So I move to approve the request by the Hartford Heroes Banner Committee for Hartford Hero banners placed on town poles between May 16th, 2026 to be removed 7/18/2026.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, a second by Tim. Let's take a roll call vote. Ashley,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Ida.
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
and I'm gonna recuse myself or abstain, excuse me. As I did with every previous banner policy, the reason that I have been abstaining is because several years ago, we had some historical information after we had passed our banners. And there is a policy that we asked a VLCT to come up with, and they did. We've had the policy from them for about a year now, maybe a little bit less. And we are gonna bring this policy up just so that we're all in agreement about where we're going with this. And at that time, I will vote, but until that time, I have abstained from voting on the banner policies. And talking to John and Mike about this, and we agreed that we would take this up after budget. So anyway, that's still passes with 4 and 1 abstention.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
Dennis.
Thank you, board members.
Thank
Good luck with
you.
budget season.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a rather cynical smile.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay, so now we are moving on to the budget wrap up.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
could we take like a 3-minute break?
sure. Okay, we will take a 5-minute break
Yeah.
and be back at 22 up.
Don't forget-
Finding it a little stuffy.
Warm in here, that's why I can tell my shoes are very warm.
Don't
I'll put my coat on.
It's cooling down, that's for
It
sure.
has cooled down.
Okay.
And there's less people in here. So. Oh. Okay, we are back at 20 minutes to 8. So budget wrap up, that's you, John,
Yes,
right?
and when I say wrap up, I'm talking about the beginning of the wrap up.
Right.
There'll be
Of course.
plenty of time ahead of us.
I thought we
Um,
were gonna do a hip hop song.
You know, like rap, we'll do a rap.
I misunderstood.
Yo,
Budget rap song. We roll.
all right, I'll get cracking.
I'm gonna get to work on that.
By the time that we participate in tonight's wrap-up session number 1, the department heads, all of them will have presented their proposed 2027 fiscal year budgets, with Gail pitching in for Dylan tonight. Throughout the process, the town has collected additional information and corrections from several department heads, which are summarized in the attached spreadsheet in your packet. I can provide a bit of an update that Lana helped me with. There's a couple of other reductions that we can mention that take that savings number of 100 and, I forget what the original number was, but it's right here. The original number was 123,476.15, and now it's up to $192,976.15. So I'll be producing an updated set of documents for you for Tuesday's meeting. But those largely reflect the fact that there are 3 traditional recipients of town support that have not met the obligation to renew their appropriation. One of which has not done it for 2 years in a row, but they will be petitioning, I'm told. But again, we can't count on the success of petitions. So those have been excised, at least for the moment, from the budget. So again, that shows savings of 192,000 over your original budgeted figures that are reflected in your notebooks. The goal for this part of the budget process is that by December 16th, there is a vote of tentative approval of a budget from the select board, which can then be updated, hopefully only minimally, based on subsequent petitions that come in. That's in order that we can have final adoption votes in mid-January in order to meet the requirement of posting a town warning, which will have all these expenditures laid out and including warned articles for proposed local option tax purchases. As my memo goes on to say, the finance director reports again today, because I was still scratching my head from the last time, but she's confirmed that our unassigned fund balance is 2,600. I'm sorry, 2 million, sorry, $2,627,245, even accounting for the current budget year's transfer or our acknowledgement of $1.47 million transfer to the general fund in 2026. So again, we're looking for 2027, at least the existence of 2,006,000 in the unassigned fund balance. Local option sales tax receipts, as I mentioned before, have been encouraging in the first quarter. I don't know that there's much reason to doubt its reliability going forward. So I do think that at least cautious expectations should be in the $1.2 million range for those revenues. I do want to point out that the select board has a series of decisions to make on the current proposed budget draft and with regard to several additional requests for funding that you have heard. Several departments wish to expand staff and services, and others have materials and equipment needs that have not yet been included in these budgets, again, based on select board guidance to try to keep it as a maintenance type of budget. These departments are police, public works, and the town manager, all of whom have advocated for this additional spending for personnel, equipment, and material during budget presentations. So I've produced that list, which I think Ida and others had suggested might be a good checklist that we can work with as we go forward and make final decisions about what to add, if anything, into the budget draft. And I also have, just to get everybody's juices flowing, put together a kind of a budget scenario. But of course, over time, each of you might have different scenarios that you'd like to explore, and we'll do our best to run numbers for you to help you make kind of bottom line decisions about what you want to present to the voters at town meeting. I hope that has been helpful. What I would suggest is that at the December 2nd meeting, maybe we hear maybe no more than 5 minutes each from the 3 department heads who have asked for additional funding, just to give them the courtesy of one additional shot at persuasion. And after that, maybe you could take a series of straw votes among yourselves as to what you think you'd like to have staff incorporate into the budget, and in addition to what's already in it, or in addition, on the other side of the equation, maybe making some straw votes as to initiatives you'd like to see to cut items in the budget. But there's a million ways to skin the cat, and I'm open to all of them. But I think in the past, that has been a process by which boards have gotten down to a final budget, to consider additions, to consider cuts, presenting those to the town staff that then produces updated numbers and assumptions about what kind of revenues you want to look to in terms of the local option sales tax, including the unassigned fund and property tax revenues.
I have a question for you, John. From what you said, I think I read, I'm just trying to find it. You said at the moment it stands at 3.3%.
Yeah, I can tell you. There's 2 numbers that often the public looks to in terms of how this budget compares to last year's budget, right?
Yeah.
One is expenses and one is property taxes that I'm going to have to pay. If you look at the expenses side, the current budget with these savings that we've mentioned represents a 4.5% budget increase as all else being equal, right?
Can I point of clarification? And that does not include any of the items on the decisions the
Correct.
select board needs to make.
Correct. On the property tax side, that budget scenario that I presented would result in a 2.8% property tax increase. So again, those are just broad statements, what's the word, mileposts. Obviously, we're going to get into the details and nuances as you make decisions line by line, or at least department by department, as to what you'd like to do with the current budget.
And does the, do you remember at all, I suppose I can find it here. Approximately last year, what appropriations, if we, and typically the Hartford voters pretty much approve the appropriations.
They
What
do.
would that
And
add?
we've already included in this budget
Right.
all of
ones
the
that have-
appropriations that have been renewed through their normal application process.
Right.
What we're looking at is 2 or 3 entities that may petition either for the same amount because they missed the deadline and
Right.
simply have to do that,
Right.
or they might be looking for an additional amount.
Okay.
The total of those 3 in the past has been about $70,000. So that's 51,000 for visiting nurses, about 9,500 for the family place, and I think 9,000 or so, maybe is that good beginnings?
I think so.
I think so. And you could take a couple different approaches to that. you might say, well, let's plug those into the budget now to be realistic about
Yeah, you just.
what the property taxes will be. Or you could take the view that, well, we don't want to presume what the voters will do.
Right.
And so you don't consider that until you see what the vote is on those petitions. We don't even know if they will petition. That's the
Right.
stated goal,
Right.
but sometimes people get sick or they don't have time or they couldn't get enough signatures. So I don't know. That's up to you folks.
Okay. Tim?
I think I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, like when I was on the school board, we had a kind of like we'll call it a finance calculator. And what you could do is when you were, mulling over, let's pretend there are $1 million in menu items and we only have $500,000 to spend kind of scenario. You could kind of like calibrate things and say, all right, well, if we approve this, what's that do? And you could kind of very quickly get that little snapshot.
Yeah.
Obviously it's, whether it's within the I think the enterprise stuff kind of sits alone anyway.
I think that's right.
So it's in a way, I think it's really valuable to, I was really struck honestly at Queechee the other night, how many people still don't understand tax rate to budget, et cetera, et cetera. So I honestly think we benefit by refreshing that tutorial every year to the voters to say like, hey, listen, we went through this, this reappraisal, which was major for everyone. Here's the tax rate, how it was set. Here's how much money we spend. So they don't think like, that comment the other night, like, oh, well, you did that reappraisal. You must have all this money. Like it doesn't work that way. And I think people just don't understand that, which is fine. But so I think that education piece is really important for us as we head into this cycle with the town. But again, back to that calculator idea, the idea would be you take this grand list number, take the tax rate, say, okay, we're trying to, generate $17 million, whatever the number is. Then you start to say, all right, well, what happens if we peel 100,000? What's that look like? How does that push that rate around? And it's valuable to just see that and kind of make decisions a little bit based on
I get that. And Gail has been quite helpful in that, at least for the previous 2 cycles. It'd be tough for me to participate in discussions while wielding the magic document. But I'm told by our potential interim finance director that he's been doing this for 30 years and might be helpful in terms of playing that role, and whether he's in person or remote. And so that's something I hope to explore with him, and he'd be available as early as maybe the December 9th meeting.
Yeah, I mean, we used to know, I remember Hunter Riesberg, who was a town manager, and he said, for every million, it moves it by a penny, or like they had some index there that you kind of knew that, and that's why we wouldn't necessarily wrestle over $10,000.
Right.
You would at least know how much that's going to push stuff around.
Ashley?
Yeah, likewise. I forget, it might have been you, Tim, that mentioned it at the Queechee Public Forum, but somebody mentioned the impact that the school side will have on property taxes. And that it's tough in that I feel really unclear and kind of like blind about what increases on that side of things will look like. And maybe that's due to my own lack of due diligence and that I should be personally more involved with that process. But I guess, is there a way for us to have a pulse on what's going to be happening on that side of the budget to kind of help inform us?
Well, I was going to jump in by saying, I see what you're saying because you're concerned about the overall impact. However, do you want to shortchange the town's budget because the school might have an excess appetite?
You almost have to go forward with what you believe to run your town with confidence. This is what you need, because here's what happens in the school side. It's wacky. You set your budgets and you have a general idea like, okay, we need to, raise have teachers, whatever. The timing in Vermont for revenue and what goes on the revenue side and all the indexes and the what do they call it? The index, not the index.
Common level or student index.
Like there's all kind. It's crazy. Like you think our spreadsheet would be complicated. Theirs is insane. Now, the one thing I was commenting on the other night is because our CLA is back at 103% or whatever, that's going to make a huge difference on local tax rates for Hartford voters this particular cycle.
In a positive way.
In a huge positive way.
Decrease.
So what it does is it reduces your need to generate taxes locally because you're not sending as much to Montpelier. You're not getting a penalty by having that low CLA. it's kind of hard to describe it. It doesn't go to Montpelier and then not come back to Hartford. It stays in Hartford, actually. It's kind of what
Yeah.
happens.
And I do agree for the most part that we should still put forth a budget of what we need to run the town. But I do think, as a wise man once said at a candidates event, sometimes you need to look at your needs and you find out that they're really wants when there's like big pressure. And so I just want to, like, I think there's things that we have in our budget that are not like absolutely critical to the operation of the town if there were such economic pressures from the school side that residents cannot afford the increase. But it doesn't, yeah, it sounds like maybe what little idea we have is that that's going to be a positive and that we don't need to like buckle down and like focus on like needs versus our, initiatives and desires and goals.
And I'll just make the point on behalf of all staff, right, that they're in the business of wanting to deliver the best services to their clientele or to the public, to the residents of town. This is not money that would be used in any other way than to make their departments serve the public better. And
Sure.
I do think that we will have department heads here throughout the budget process to answer questions or to make arguments in favor of this or that line item. But I do think that, at least as with respect to the people who are asking for additional non-budgeted items, we ought to give them one more hearing, however brief, before you start making decisions about what you want to continue discussing and considering and what you can dispense with. And
Yeah, and is the intent that we will discuss some of these items tonight and get a sense
No,
of?
I think we're gonna do that on Tuesday, next
Tuesday.
Tuesday. Yeah.
I think so. Tonight, and Gail suggested that's the same thing, is that traditionally this has been kind of the update, now that you've seen all the presentations, laying out kind of the tools in the tool belt and identifying things that we'd like to take place at Tuesday's meeting, so that can be understood. Everybody understands the process and the expectation. And then meanwhile, we can present you with any additional information as it comes forward,
Eric?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, that answered part of my question about process, because I was
Yeah.
very confused. We seem to be swirling about in conversation here. It's unclear to what is our objective for this agenda item. It sounds like it's simply to receive an update from you as to where things stand.
Yeah, and to kind of lay out or propose a roadmap for the days ahead. If you have other roadmaps, I'm happy to hear it, or other suggestions on how to be efficient with it.
I think it might behoove us to take an opportunity to sort of raise some questions across the board. Things, I know you've probably been peppered with emails. There's some things that maybe in the category of follow-up questions or whatever, get some of those to the surface tonight. In terms of circling back to the calculator idea, Tim, it's here, I have it. It's relatively straightforward. We can just go down through, it basically took the memo contents and put it into a spreadsheet, and we can just flip a bit for each of them and see the impact on a tax rate. And so, we can put that up on the screen and play with that in some session.
You made that?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
I know
Yeah, you're gonna email it to us first, so we get a chance to look at it.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to, by the way, share last year's calculator that Gail has presented to me and see how it works with what you have got.
Yeah, this definitely deserves some extra eyes on it in terms of what I have in here, but it's a starting place. And those are the reason I was asking about earlier about those 4 breakdowns in the taxes is just because I was trying to refine it a little bit, like where the local agreement tax is reflected and so on, because I'm not sure if I have that right, but that's a tiny fraction. It's a 1/10 of a cent on $100. So, sort of, can I just start us off with questions then, with some questions on the existing budget?
Yeah, how long?
I just have like 1 or 2.
Oh, okay, that's great, because I'm just cognizant of the time.
And you do have an executive session or 2.
Yeah.
So I do want to come back to the allocations. I sort of held my tongue on that earlier, but I fully appreciate that we should be allocating resources across the enterprise funds. And I think in most cases, they make sense to me. for example, town manager is 30-70 split. Unless you're tracking everything you do, it's going to be hard to, I mean, it's a gut, feel like this feels
Right.
right. It feels pretty right to me. In terms of like the proposed HR position, that does not feel right to me, unless there's really clear justification. Like if you just do head counts, there's 116 full-time employees. There's 14 full-time employees in the 4 divisions in the 5 divisions, excuse me, of enterprise funds. Like, where do you get a 50-50 split out of that? Like, I don't understand
I'm
the
sure
math.
some of it is anecdotal and memory as to which fires have been burning most brightly for HR in recent times. And that might be a reflection of that. But over time, you'd expect that to be evened out.
I would think so.
Yes.
Right. So I would
Today
like-
is police snafu, tomorrow's wastewater snafus, and
Right.
that just might be based on
Yeah.
recollection of recent issues.
Yeah, and unless a division or department or group has special training needs or whatever,
Right.
and we probably will kind of relatively even out.
Mhm.
And even if it's not perfect, like, I don't think it has to be, we don't have to calculate it to be 12.1% to the enterprise funds, or where we can, 20% or something would probably be suitable, I think. But so I would like to revisit that, and you are correct. You did give us a list of those allocations, and I'm happy to go through those and fire some questions back to you on that.
Mhm.
There's only a few. I do agree with the help desk IT one of allocating in whatever fashion is appropriate. I had the question to Dylan about that, about they have a ticket tracking system, and whether they have data in the ticket tracking system that would give them a better indication of how to allocate. One other question I have is about the mechanic under the 626 budget, town mechanic getting EV training for $8,000. What are the EVs in the current fleet that individual needs training for?
There are multiple EVs in various departments. I could maybe from Dana get you a list of them and where they live, which departments.
Does that mechanic typically work on those EVs?
I know that he's had training with EVs, and he is the one who often services town vehicles, especially police and fire. But those are questions I can pose.
Yeah, the reason I keep pressing on that is that
No.
this was in the budget last year, and it just seems odd to me. It's not only not coming from HFD where that mechanic reports to,
Right.
but it's also why is it in the budget? Why does it keep getting carried over? Is the individual requesting it? Is the department requesting it? Or is it just something we're budgeting? Because if not, then I'd say let's strike it until the individual and the department finds the need for it and wants it budgeted.
I get you.
I think. And one other question I have: there's a climate action reserve fund. I was wondering what the balance on that is. It's to the best of my memory, it's somewhere in the $54,000 range, and that's money that's just been sitting there for years. I think it started with 60 grand. A small amount got used for some equipment. I don't recall well enough to quote that, but there's a chunk of money just sitting there, and that seems unproductive and not a good use of taxpayer dollars. And on that note, I guess I would hope that you could give us other similar reserve funds. So maybe not the ones that are at the department level, or maybe we just get all of them. Reserve fund account balances, so that we just kind of know what money is sitting there. And it's not to question, like, if a department has been building up a reserve, they've been doing it for a good reason. But if there's something this has been out here, and I happen to know that it's out there, and I'm pretty sure that there's a balance.
Right.
There's a positive balance that we should be either looking to use it or doing whatever's necessary to sort of transfer that back into a usable place. So that's it for me for right now. Thank you.
I just want to say that, I only know this from having been on the Conservation Commission, that, they use some of their funds that they keep in reserve for easements. So it doesn't always come up every year in an even way, but they build that up in case they have to use it for it.
Yeah, I think we need to understand
Yeah.
what the money is there for.
Yeah. Tim?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I have to say, year to year, for me, it's always been fuzzy, trying to interpret, what we call unexpended fund balance. We have reserves, and it's just funny to me, like, and I understand, like, in a big budget, you're not going to spend all of it in that given fiscal cycle, but for me, it's kind of like you try and get close, right? So if voters are voting and they're saying, yep, we're voting for this budget, we're going to hire 3 police officers, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and then some of those things don't happen, right? Or the project doesn't get done.
I do know that Gail takes pride in that the trend line on encumbering funds is coming down.
Driving that down, because it just seems to me that, and I'm not suggesting it's bad fiscal management, but it's just for the clarity of a voter saying, oh, okay, you were in the town well, you got reserves here, you got bonds, you got, you spent most of your money last year for what you intended to spend it on, I think is a better path than, hey, we got 2 million sitting here and to knock the taxes down, let's vote in another, it's just, I don't think it's good fiscal practice to do that.
And you can get addicted to those quick fixes. And I gather from both Eric and Ida's memo about the unassigned fund that, that's an addiction we'd like to wean ourselves away from. And maybe it's not cold turkey, maybe it's over time. But I think, for example, in the scenario that I've laid out, we're talking about a more modest transfer of the unassigned fund.
And I do like the idea of rainy day stuff. So the idea that you kind of set a benchmark of saying 10% of your overall budget, like whatever the number that seems.
Some of the guidance seems to say 5 to 10, maybe even 15%, depending.
Yeah, and just to, may I, Mary?
Yes.
Just to, follow a little bit in context of like where this was coming from Chuck Worcester. I mean, he served on the board during the Great Recession, and so he really felt that, everyone did, the whole community felt the real tension in terms of, are we going to have enough to keep our town going at the level that we want it to without having to do layoffs and things like that. So that's like, it's not a distant memory in a lot of people's minds. And so being more strategic and careful, and whether it means actually creating a separate emergency fund that is a certain percentage of the budget, or, being more disciplined with how we use the unassigned funds and what we maintain in that as a balance, I think is, that's partly what it's coming from, is like right now, it's like we're doing well, and we do have surplus every year, but that might not always be the case if there's a crisis.
I mean, I never liked it, as you knew, but that 1 million tax coming in now gives you a little resilience and flexibility that you perhaps didn't have before. It does year to year give you some adaptability.
But again, we do have to remember that that was passed with the expectation that that would be applied only to property tax relief.
I know, and I still sort of like the idea that people have put out there that like this almost feels premature that we know that number. Like I think we could be actually blind to it until later, a bit later in the process.
Well, I think, yes, a temporary blindness. Because I do think there might be some people pretty upset if they've been taxed throughout the year and they don't see that money coming back in terms of property tax relief.
It will be applied, but not to kind of try to partition it from our decision-making process as we build the budget. We want to build the budget as, conservatively as we think we can. And then that will add additional relief.
Go ahead.
Okay, we're gonna have to need to wrap this up too. So save a lot of your questions or add them.
Did you need to say something, finish, Ida?
Well, maybe you want to take this, but I do want to also have some space and time to bring up a bigger potential proposal, just put it out there about lot. Do you want me to start?
Yeah,
okay.
Please.
Okay, so just to put this out there, I think it's like.
We're talking rooms, meals, and alcohol.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly.
We
So
need
the
rebranding here.
Lot versus lost.
rooms, meals, and alcohol, the ones that the voters decide on.
Yeah.
So John has proposed, has highlighted what the current ideas on the table are with regards to that. And I know this is not for discussion, but just to sort of put it on people's radar is that one idea that Ashley and I were thinking through was getting a renewed bid for Casella, going back to recycling. We know that there's a split opinion on this topic in town, clearly. And it seems like it would benefit it's a good idea, or we could actually understand the will of the voters a lot better if it was an article that people voted on. And that's sort of the only way, because as I said before, I don't think a survey is going to tell us any valid information about this. So one thought is if we got a renewed contract, bid from Casella, which we could presume, and we would have to decide if we want to go with the 3-year or the 5-year, but make that the lot, like for the full total of the lot, which is around 350 or so, we think.
Well, I do think that's a conservative number.
Yeah.
And Gail wasn't budging when I talked to her earlier today about it.
Yeah.
But I do see a pretty healthy balance. And the trend line will be improving to the extent we will start now getting 75% of those proceeds rather than the historic 70%.
Yeah. So it could be a significant amount that could cover potentially on all that contract, with the understanding that we do want to explore other options, or at least I really do. But that's going to take some time. So if the voters want for the next 3 or 5 years to have Casella do what they were doing before, we could ask them that.
What if it's a no? Then you're not making any use of the lot.
So, but then we have a huge amount to use the following year, and we would have to campaign and explain people that that's what would happen. We'd have to make that really clear to the voters that if this gets voted down, which I think it would, but I don't know, then we'd have 700,000 plus more to do a significant project, or have a lot of voter discretion in terms of where that goes the following year.
But there also might be people that would say, we could have used some of this for some, like Dylan's been wanting to do an AV upgrade.
Well, we'd have to think about putting all of those requests, but consider each of them to go back into the general fund.
Right.
I mean, can I make one quick comment on that? I think one of the greatest problems with curbside is that we're not running it. We should be running it like the enterprise funds. We should be running it by users pay. Because when it's in the general fund, all the people that don't use it are resentful, and we never even knew who was using it. So it became very muddled, right, in terms of understanding what was actually going on the street. So I really think that if you were going to reintroduce curbside, you would want to design it like water and sewer, where you use it, you pay for it, and make it a very different animal. Now, truth be told, when Casella gave you that number, it was $25 a month. Now Casella is now offering to do mine for $50 a month. So it's double.
With trash, isn't it combined trash and recycling?
No, it literally doubled just because the town wasn't doing it, but it was done on an individual basis. So we may benefit by putting it back in the town enterprise, but I say run it as an enterprise fund, not in the general fund.
I'm just saying this is a short-term solution. I don't think it's the best solution at all. I don't think it's a good, I have personal views on this, but I do think that it's, the voters deserve to have a say in what they want in the near term, while we consider better solutions in the longer term.
Yeah, so maybe there's a couple of responses there from me. One is you could use the ballot to simply ask the question without tying it to dollars, saying, do you want this program to resume with the potential future implementation time? Because I know DPW has felt that they'd like more data as to what's happening in the aftermath of the discontinuance.
Right.
But I do have a report to you, which is that per Ashley, I have reached out to Dave Allen at Casella, and they will be presenting a figure for me, hopefully in the next few days. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to put it on the ballot just as a hypothetical. It wouldn't mean anything to me unless voters were looking at the number. Like, I want them to see the number of how much the contract.
Do you want to spend $600,000 to resume? Or whatever it is.
Yeah, well, so you're suggesting that if we just had it there with the amount that's
you were
not
saying,
attached to lot, just to say, what would we do with that information? Like,
you were saying the surveys are no good. What about voting on town meeting day? That's a much better sample of public opinion.
But what would we do? Would that be just something we would take into consideration for the FY28 budget?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if I may on this.
Ashley?
I think that my intention with bringing it, and the request of the voters that I've spoken to, is that it's how quickly can we get back to this service? Because there's recycling piling up on some properties. Some people are putting the recycling in the trash. My faith in the data collection efforts at the transfer station is not super high, and that's no, diss to them, but I think even Brian is like, we've struggled with the data metrics and the collection of that data, and how valuable is that going to be? So for me, it's the question to the voters is, while we get our act together with our long-term plan for solid waste, including recycling, what do you want to do with our recycling? Do you want to continue to contract Casella and pay more out of pocket than you were in your tax rate? Do you want to go to the transfer station? Or do you want to resume this, this service that was provided for this much money in fiscal year 2027? And my hesitancy around doing like a survey type vote is I think that's where we get into trouble with voters, where we put things on a ballot.
And don't honor them. Yeah.
And we either don't honor them, or the way that we ask the question is unclear enough that then when we do something different than exactly the wording, then people are upset and they're like, wait a second, we voted against that.
i.e. parking meters.
Yes, I do not want to make a parking meter mistake on this. So I think, yeah, my hope is that, like, I echo what Ida said, and I think we put it to the voters and we figure out the details of if that's lot funding, yeah, I'm flexible. I like the idea of lot, but
Well,
open for
lot
feedback.
is generally, you think about one time expenditure, not ongoing operations. But, it's, as Eric points out, it's been used for a lot of reasons, in a lot of fashions that maybe it weren't originally intended. But as I read the town charter, it simply says that this money will be held in a capital reserve account for use as directed by the voters, or words similar to that. So that means basically anything that the voters want is what they can use lot for.
Yeah, I mean, it would put pressure on it. If people voted for it, it would put a timeline on the leadership to figure out what is the plan, because this isn't an ongoing funding source. We're not gonna put this on the lot, as a lot vote every 3 years. So what are we gonna do when the contract ends?
I'm sorry.
Okay, are we ready to move on?
I did just have one question that I think is a very brief one. In the decisions for the select board that the select board needs to make, under the police items, what I don't see there is the request for the study of the public safety building.
It's on possible
It's in
lot uses.
Oh, it's in,
Next
oh,
page.
okay.
Yeah, because it was
Okay.
not budgeted, but they have been wanting to have a study done, and they've guesstimated $50,000 to $60,000 to do it.
Okay, and they'd prefer to put it in law.
I don't know that they prefer to put it in lot. I think they were trying to do the best they could with board guidance to keep the budget as lean as possible. And 50,000 is a big nut.
Yeah. Okay.
And this doesn't include buggies yet.
Right. Again, that's another to be determined. So lots of
Expenses are coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, part of why I hoped, I mean, we'll dive into that, but I want to give, I was hoping to give, and I could send you an email, John, if this is easier. I wanted to give Chief Kelly kind of a heads up about where my thinking is, which is that with the economic restraints that we have right now, and with her being new to the position and still getting the department figured out and getting her feet underneath her, I think, as she said in the past meeting, like, I'm not super inclined to support that study right now, because I think we want to have a really clear idea of what our long-term goals are for the department and kind of an inventory of where we stand now as opposed to those goals. But I do think that there are real spatial challenges of that building. And so if she were to maybe if she had any other requests that were maybe for like smaller amounts that would provide some like immediate relief
Yes.
of bringing in a designer and a contractor to get some, which I would assume they would, even if we did the study this year, it would be years out before any structure would actually be complete. So
No doubt.
I just kind of wanted to put that in her mind before we visit that again with her.
Yeah, municipal redesign specialist.
Okay, thank you, sorry.
So are we ready for moving on to commission reports?
Yes,
Okay,
thank you, John.
Eric?
Sure.
You want to start?
Thank you, Madam Chair. None for me tonight.
All right, thank you. Ida,
No reports.
thank you.
Super brief. Planning and zoning, I did not attend the meeting, but they were doing a evaluation of the regional planning commission land overlays and whether there was conflicts between the town land use overlays and theirs. And there were some, and they're really doing a pretty detailed analysis of that. And it's excellent work. And again, I didn't attend, but I did read their packet, and it's actually very interesting to read if anybody wants to read it.
All right, thanks, Tim. Ashley?
Sure. The Resilient Hartford Committee is shifting into winter mode with the food forest. So they're kind of putting the Clifford Park food forest to rest for the winter, turning over the things that need to happen there, and are shifting their focus towards working on the kiosk design and the signage that will be on the kiosk come warmer weather, so that folks have an idea of like what is the food forest, what is there, with a map. And I think that's a pretty cool effort. And then they're working also with, I think, Lori on the FEMA hazard mitigation plan, which I sent them the Hartford Fire Department community risk assessment that was done. I think that my first ever select board meeting, we got presented that, and it was an amazing analysis of risks and risk mitigation in Hartford. So kind of hoping to connect those dots, and hats off to the Resilient Hartford Committee for all the cool work they're doing.
All right. And as John said, we thought it was going to be our last Bugby Building Committee meeting on Monday. But what we found out is there's still some monetary allocations that we're not sure of, but the short-term projects that Mark was trying to get the definite funding issue going for the budget is issues with the grease trap. They may have to pay to investigate it when this is an actual necessary safety issue. Paving parking lot, hood fan motor is now a code change, so they don't want to use this anymore because of that. It would have to be custom made, which would be a six-figure generator, and to decommission the boiler. Those are the 5 areas that he was trying to get some funding information.
And if I can, you're going to add that to the list of others that are clearly needed.
Right.
That the fire marshal's identified.
Right,
Yeah,
right. These are in addition, but they are ones that they feel that in order to be safety issues that they have to be addressed at some point. And so then when he comes back with those monetary amounts, then he will come to our budget meeting with that information. But in the meantime, he will also come up with an RFP for the architects as the next step and look at all the options for that to be presented to the board. So,
And if anybody wants to be sure that their commission reports make their way into the minutes, Lana is happy to receive your report, however brief or concise.
great. And so we are at the consent agenda.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Eric.
I move that that the select board approve payroll ending 11/22/2025, approve AP manifest 11/21/2025, and 11/26/2025, approve meeting minutes of 11/12/2025, 11/18/2025, and 11/19/2025, and approve future meetings for 11/2/2025 budget.
12/2.
I'm sorry, yes, 12/2/2025 budget, 12/9/2025, 12/16/2025 budget, and 12/30/2025, and budget meetings if needed for 12/4/2025, 12/11/2025, and 12/18/2025.
Thank you, Eric.
I'll second that motion.
All right. Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So that is 5. Okay, so executive session.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Eric.
Thank you. In order to allow for A, the review of a proposed contract for an interim finance director, and B, a discussion of the evaluation of a town employee, I, one, move to find that premature general public knowledge would clearly place this body and or persons involved at a substantial disadvantage pursuant to one VSA section 313A1. And two, move to discuss a potential contract and personnel matters pursuant to one VSA section 313 subsections A1A and A3.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
All right, thank you, Tim. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So we will go into executive session.
We're doing this in the other room.
Yes.
When do we decide if we have the if needed budget meetings?
As we go.
Is that we go?
I mean, if.
Tuesday, we'll decide if we want to.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the answer is, we'll know pretty soon if we're feeling functioning and efficient, or whether we're feeling
Highly
like
dysfunctional.
we're losing focus, because nobody, I think, wants to have an extra meeting just for the sake of it. But those are available if we feel we need them.
Do Mike and I need to be on for an agenda setting for a budget or not?
No, not for budget meetings.
Okay, just want to make sure.
There's not even time to do so.
out of executive session.
Are we live? We're live.
Still open, okay, great.
Yes, we are.
Madam Chair, I move that we end the select board executive session at 9:24 PM.
I'll second.
Okay, thanks, Tim. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Are we,
You've got the interim finance director motion.
yes. Okay.
Okay, coming out of executive session, I'd like to move that the select board approve and authorize the town manager to execute the employee leasing agreement proposed by MGT with regard to the provision of an interim finance director services to the town of Hartford.
Second that motion.
Okay, a second by Eric. All in favor, say aye.
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 Do you want to call for nays and abstentions?
I'll abstain.
Oh, that's right. I didn't hear your voice. All right, thank you. There are 4 yeses and 1 abstention. Okay, and
Are there any other matters?
well,
Was it
the
Eric that
evaluation
seconded
of
the- Sorry.
the evaluation of a town employee, we are waiting, we think we need to also get some information from Mike and Miranda,
Okay.
who weren't here. So there's no action on that.
For that, well, I guess you're not gonna have an agenda planning session. We would like to have another executive session discussion.
To include Mike and Miranda, can we do
Oh.
that on a budget?
Yeah, you can. You
Okay.
definitely can.
Okay.
So we can do that
include
Tuesday
on
night.
Next
Yeah.
Tuesday, yeah, that'd be
I
great.
hope that they both
Thank you.
come.
Thank you.
All right, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Wait, can I have a point of, I don't know if it's a point of order or a point of clarification or a point of clarification. Who seconded the motion to end executive session?
Tim,
I believe I
Thank
did.
you.
Eric
could
and
not-
Ashley and then Tim.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
All right,
I will move to adjourn.
I'll second that.
okay, Eric moves, Tim seconds, all in favor say aye.
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 So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Signatures, last chance.
Oh, yes, I need to.
I already did mine.
And we got minutes for Ashley over there.